Just a couple of things. Please keep the conversation at a conversational pace in order for me to interpret correctly. Um, I will be off camera most of the time, but if I do come on camera and I do this hand sign, it means that you're speaking too quickly and I just need you to slow down a little. And if I do this hand sign, maybe something's wrong with your mic, or I'll just adjust the volume level myself. Um, but again, thank you for having me. If you have any questions, please feel free to pause and let us know so we can figure things out. But again, thank you for having me. Something we like to say too is please don't suffer in silence. If you are having issues hearing us, please speak up and we're happy to assist. Hola a todos, mi nombre es Abby Ocampo y soy una intérprete con el Community Language Co-op. Hoy voy a estar interpretando de inglés a español y español a inglés. Creemos que todos merecen hablar en el lenguaje de su corazón, entonces por favor hablen en el lenguaje que se sienten más cómodos. Hoy voy a estar con la cámara apagada, pero por favor mantengan la conversación a un paso conversacional para que pueda interpretar correctamente. Si prendo la cámara y hago esta seña, significa que están hablando un poco muy rápido y necesito que hablen un poco más despacio. Y si hago esta seña, significa que hay un problema con su micrófono, y necesitan hacer ajustes o yo puedo subir y bajar el volumen a mi propia cuenta. Em, pero por favor, no sufran en silencio. Si tienen problemas, déjenos saber. Podemos pausar y ver qué está sucediendo. Pero de nuevo, gracias por tenerme y podemos comenzar. All right, we can begin.
Perfect. Let me just share my screen. Thank you again, Abby.
Okay. And if you just want to turn on the interpretation.
Yes. And then like to interpretation. Okay, great.
Okay, ready?
Yep. Take it away, Keenan.
All right. Welcome everybody to Marketing Made Manageable Tools for Busy Producers. This webinar is made possible by a extension risk management education grant that we lovingly have named ERME, ERME. And this grant has enabled a series of workshops that are similar to this one that respond directly to needs that we've heard from our producers in the area that increase kind of this resilience in economic resilience and doing that through education. And so we have this workshop. I'll introduce a few others down the line. I'll introduce so I'm Keenan Hill. I'm with the Northern Colorado Food Shed Project. We work on bolstering the food system through both working on the demand side and the supply side. My role is to run the farm business accelerator program. We have 15 acres out at Flores del Sol that we lease to beginning farmers in a 3 to 5 year program. We provide shared access to tunnels and equipment and classes like this one, and just kind of the cohort and shared experience of doing this crazy job that is starting a farm. And so as part of that, this extension risk management education series is supporting both our accelerator participant producers and the wider Northern Colorado community of producers. I think that explains me. Next, I'll introduce our next class in this series, which is Pricing Strategies 101. This is going to be a super specific and super
Oh, Keenan, you froze for a second.
my product, whether it's at market competitive, but helps me make ends meet, and how do I even go about something like that? So we're going to hear from the expert, Don Thilmany, who works on this very question from like looking at and we'll also learn through her how to look at data that's available to figure out the answer to this, and then how to kind of go about pricing for you in a way that makes sense for your farm. It's going to be at Odell Brewing in the community room, Tuesday, May 5th. So just about 2 weeks now, 6 to 7:30. We'll get pizza provided for everybody. So come hang out. There'll be lots of time for questions. We can bounce ideas off each other. This will be a great class.
Great. And if you just want to put the RSVP link in the chat, Keenan, that'd be great
Yes.
because then people can register now. But yeah, this is going to be a great workshop. It's a question we get a lot from producers of how do I price my fruit and vegetables, my meat? And there's a lot of things to consider. You don't want to just go to the grocery store and see how much a pound of beef is. That's not going to necessarily be the best way to decide how to price things. There's a whole strategy that goes into it. And Dawn Thilmany is the best, and she's really going to go deep into it. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by how do I price these things this summer when things cost more, gas is costing more, fertilizer, all of these things, then this pricing strategy workshop is really going to help that for you to adjust your price of your products based on what you're actually spending so you can make money. Okay, so I'm just going to continue on. Martha Solins, she was going to join this, but she had some last minute things. So she's a part of the CSU Food Systems group. I'm also part of that group. And really, CSU Food Systems has an amazing website. If you haven't been to it already, you should check it out. And they have a lot of resources. But she just wanted to share these market development resources that could be really helpful to you all as producers. The Colorado Produce Safety.org, so you can learn practices on how to grow, harvest, and sell fresh produce safely. Colorado Farm to Market. That's if you can't make that pricing market 101, go check out Colorado Farm to Market. You can see all different farmers markets in Colorado, or like most of them, and what they're pricing things at. So you can kind of gauge how you want to price things. Farmers market price reporting. Oh, that's the one I was talking about. Colorado Farm to Market is the regulations around the sales of meat. Market channels assessment is really how to beat profit in different market outlets. So a lot of great things. And we'll share these slides afterwards so you can go back to these links. Something that Martha Solins is also up to is the Colorado Meat Summit. This is a really exciting thing. So meat summits have been taking place all over the US, and they're getting bigger and bigger. And it's just a way for all the meat producers to get together, especially if you sell direct to market. It's a chance to network, and you're going to be talking with producers and processors and buyers and really figuring out the challenges that are happening in the meat space and how to all be on the same page and really learn and connect. So it's going to be a great event. Do you mind putting the link to that too, Keenan, in the chat? I really definitely recommend registering it if you're a meat producer.
Okay.
And now we're going to go to polling. So let me just exit out of this. And we share. Just stop sharing really quick. And one moment. Okay. Great. So if you're on your computer, you can go to the website in a new tab. So I'll just let you guys do that. So if you are on your computer, you can type in pe.app. Let me present this really quick. pe.app/market webinar. If you're on your computer and you want to do it from your phone, you can take out your phone and scan this QR code. But yeah, that's pe.app/market webinar. And so the first question, so we're just asking 3 questions at the beginning of the webinar to gauge your understanding of these different topics and what you're already doing in the market space. And then at the end, we'll ask some questions to see what additional information you need, what additional, webinars or workshops we can do in the future, and, just to see how much you learned from this event. So because in extension, we love surveying people. So if you want to type in your responses question, if you really can't access it, that is okay. You can also put it in the chat. So Do you know who your customers are? For example, what they like to buy, what they will pay, where they are coming from, etc. So, so have you done a customer analysis? Have you, um, yeah, so maybe formal, something informal, or you kind of have an idea of who might be buying from you, but haven't done really any like analysis on that. Okay, great. Well, people are definitely knowing who their customers are, which is great. I bet you guys are all selling at farmers markets or CSAs and like interacting face to face with your customers. Let's go to the next one. How do you currently drive customers to your business? So, are you targeted outreach to specific customer groups that you know of? Do you have broad messaging to the public in general, or you don't necessarily have a plan? So, those specific customer groups, like an example is like on Instagram, you can do targeted ads, and you can choose different customer groups that you'd like to target. Um, or certain places that people are going to be, and that's your customer audience. So it could be formal, more like that Instagram, or more of like an informal, like everyone who goes to this coffee shop will buy your product, and so they'll see your flyer. Okay, great. Do you know your outreach to customers is effective? So, or how do you know your outreach to customers is effective? So this is just a chat response. So you could say they're buying products. That's great. But like for you, how do you know that like all that time that you're putting into creating an Instagram post or editing your website, do you know that's effective? Oh, you don't think it is? That's okay. That's why you're here for this webinar. So we're all in it together. How did you hear of us? That's great. Asking people, how'd you hear about us? That's great. Making sales, converting contacts into customers. I like that. Mm-hmm. Even maybe having like a sign up to our newsletter at your farmers market stand or something like that. People can connect with you. Okay. Great. Well, I'll just wait like one more second and then for you guys' responses if you're like frantically typing. Oh, okay. There's 0 currently connected. Okay. Well, we'll just move on. And that's it for the polling for now. I'm gonna stop sharing. Okay. And I'm just going to introduce Melissa and she'll take it away. So Melissa Hempkin is Hempkin is a small scale holistic farm, or Melissa Hoff, your farm, is a small scale holistic farm with a heritage breed poultry hatchery and about a quarter acre of heirloom garlic. Melissa is a born storyteller and a previous career in magazine journalism informs how she approached both direct to consumer and wholesale marketing for Melissa Hoff brand and sub brand. It's really cool. So take it away, Melissa.
All right. Thanks, Jess. So I'm probably the only one up here in Wyoming. I think most of you are down in Colorado. But I know Martha and Dawn, and I've worked with CSU Food Systems on a couple projects. And I'm going to talk, I was asked to focus on a few different things. Understanding your audience, creating engaging content, posting on a schedule for social content, and staying on top of marketing trends. So I don't have slides, but I'm going to be sharing some screens. And real quick to be like, hey, what does Meta Business Suite look like in the back? and how you can pull some of that data to figure out who is your audience reading your social posts. Also, I have some stuff I'm going to be sticking in the chat. So you might want to be ready to copy and paste or write stuff down. So first off, thinking about who is your audience. And I highly recommend you be really super strategic about it. So you all may already have an audience if you already have a food or farm business and you want to switch your audience, or you might not even started yet and you might want to think about who do you want to target. And a great thing to think about that on is something for business strategy. And I highly recommend you listen or read to this little book. It's not that thick. called No Bullshit Strategy. And it's super interesting to think about. It's very basic business, but it can be applied to any business. So they give a lot of examples about there. Because when I started Melissa Hoff, which is super confusing, but we'll get into branding later. My name is Melissa Hempkin, but the business name is Melissa Hoff, and I should have thought about that more. Was I started it with the goal to pay the mortgage on my property. I purchased my place with money from a previous career. The farm is still not paying the full mortgage 6 years later, but that is my goal. And so with that, I had a profit goal. If you're only paying your mortgage, you're actually not having profit at all. You're just finally paying all your expenses, right? So definitely go to that pricing strategy webinar. Highly recommend it. But with that, I chose a target audience 3 hours west of me, which is Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Who's been to Tetons and Yellowstone, right? Highly touristy. It is the richest city in the U.S. It's the richest county in the U.S. It's a lot of wealth there. I live in Fremont County, which majority of Fremont County, which is the same size as the state of Vermont, is the Wind River Indian Reservation. We have a much lower income here. That's okay. But if I want to hit my profit goals, or even just pay all my expenses, I got to go somewhere with a higher wealth base. And that's why this is going to be my 5th market season in Jackson. And we drive 6 hours round trip in one day and work a market. I was doing it all by myself first. Now I have 2 full-time interns in the summer. That strategy, though, very much defines how I picked my audience right at the beginning. And that's based on my business goals and what the heck am I doing with this business? Definitely think about your business strategy. It doesn't necessarily have to be the audience that's right around you, or it can be the audience that's your community and a nearby community, or it could be a national audience. It could be a statewide audience. You really need to think that through really clearly. And then along with that, here's some points where you need to go. And if you all have ever worked in journalism, there's a whole bunch of who, what, why, when, how, right? It's the 4 W's and an H. And these is how you need to think about who are your audience. Where do they live? I just said I picked Jackson, right? For other reasons. What do they care about? Well, the folks in Jackson care about different things than the folks who live in Lander, Wyoming, which is where I live. And it's a town of 7,000 people. It's kind of out of the way. We get some tourism, but not a lot. Jackson gets 5 million tourists a year. That's a whole different community over there. How old are your customers? Are they your age? Are they older than you? Are they younger than you? How do they think? Where do they hang out? And when do they interact with you? And that's just a few things to think about. Who are these folks? Where are they meeting you at? Where are they finding you? So for one thing, Wyoming's kind of old school. Wyoming runs on Facebook. You may love Instagram, but if your community or your target audience lives on Facebook, you better be on Facebook. Or if all they do is read print flyers in the coffee shop, you better be putting print flyers in that coffee shop, right? That might not be what you do, but if that's what they do, that's how you need to communicate with them. So that's some things why, knowing where your audience is really to start on marketing. Another thing is to really think about how you can catch their information. So it's actually super hard now on social media to beat that algorithm. You've probably heard about it. Like my mom was just telling me on the phone a couple days ago, she's like, I always make sure I like every single post that you and your sister put up, because my sister and I both have businesses, because I know if I don't like them every single time I see them, then I don't see them because Facebook won't show them to me. So my mom, she's like, and I want to know what you post. And I'm like, well, you could also call me, Mom. I'll tell you what I'm doing. But that means that you might get followers on social media, but the algorithms might not be favoring your content. They may not see a thing that you're putting up there after all that hard work, right? So definitely think about how are you catching them. Don't just go for follows on socials. Think about emails. One thing that I'm really working on, this is my marketing goal, and I'm going to talk more about it this year, is to do way more consistent email newsletters, because every single time someone buys from me at the farmer's market, I can capture their email. And that is super valuable. And so I am now putting a lot more time in a monthly newsletter. I'm going to talk a little bit more about my strategy behind that. But think about where else you can get them. Now, then again, you're going to get you might get labeled as spam going into their email. Another algorithm, doggone it, digital media. So, now print flyers are sounding really good. So you really need to think about, who that audience is. Again, where are they hanging out? How are you interacting with them before you put limited budget and limited time into what you're doing, because we all are doing everything else we want to do. And I actually really enjoy marketing. I was talking about I have a writing career, photography career. I love it, but I also need a bucket feed to the chickens. And today I spent with the intern, spent a couple hours cleaning out the neighbor's ditch because his plug culverts were blocking my irrigation water. And I really need to irrigate the garlic because we're in a severe drought. So anyways, not doing marketing, right? I was muddy and stomping through bush. So there's all sorts of things to be doing. So you really need to think about how you're using your time. Real
Melissa,
quickly,
can I interrupt you? Tanya asks, what email platform do you use before we
I just switched to Substack. Yeah. And so before I can just I was going to talk about that a little later, but before we detour there's a reason I switched to Substack. For one thing, here's the link. I just switched last fall, and it's because I have such a high subscriber count now. I'm paying through the nose to get these email platforms to send out my emails. MailChimp, MailerLite, they all switch to making you pay when you hit over 500 subscribers. I have 1,000 plus, and I just hate having to pay to send out an email newsletter. And Substack has no limit yet. Hopefully they don't get one. So I switched to Substack. Along with that strategy, I switched to long form content because that's what I enjoy. I used to do print journalism where I was doing long form journalism, 2,000 to 6,000 words. And it's just kind of my bailiwick. And that's what I enjoy doing. Not everyone's going to love it, right? So I have a Substack now. Previous to that, I used MailerLite, and previous to that, I used MailChimp until I started running into their email limits. So yeah, that's what I use. Primarily switched to it for long form content and subscriber count. I don't really use that social platform for somewhere else, but Substack has this whole other social side to it that you could dig into as well. But I don't think it's really where my customers are located. I don't think they really use it. So I just use it for the email side. Yeah. Any other questions? Feel free to stop me when I'm talking about it. Real quick, I'm going to talk a little bit more about how to split your messaging if you have two different types of customer bases, which is what I have. And so it takes a little bit of nuance to figure that out. And I'm going to pull up the front page of my website and share that real quick. So this is melissahoff.com. And I had to do two different calls of actions in everything I talk about. And here's an example of what that is. So I have a lot of live poultry customers. I have a rare breed heritage hatchery. So I have 5 different heritage breeds. I sell hatching eggs nationally. Last year, I shipped to over 30 states. I hatch over 1,000 chicks a year. I only ship them within the state of Wyoming. But all those folks, they generally have their own chickens. They are buying live poultry from me. They don't need to buy eggs from me, table eggs for use in the kitchen. They don't need to buy chicken meat from me. And generally they have their own vegetable garden. A chicken coop and a vegetable garden they're just connected. So they're over here. They want to know about my chickens. They want to discover the chickens. They want to learn about how to be a chicken keeper. But then I have that target audience, they're national. Hatching eggs are national. And then live poultry customers are generally just the state of Wyoming. Over here, Eat Good Food, this call to action is speaking to my customer base in Jackson. Jackson Hole is where I put a lot of my food product marketing effort. That's where we keep a steady presence at the farmers markets. That's where I sell wholesale to restaurants. And those customers, when they hit my website, that's what they're looking for. In Jackson, you can't even have a chicken in your yard. They don't allow it in city limits. So they can't even have a hen and a laying flock, even if they wanted it over there in Jackson. But in all my talk content, whether on the website, my newsletter, socials, I have to talk to both customer audiences at once. And so that's something I'm constantly nuancing. And this is on the front page of my website. It's just an example of why I've chosen to do this and why there's strategy there and me knowing that I have 2 different types of audiences. So that's just a real quick example for there. And I will put that website link in the chat real quick so you guys can move into that. And that is on Shopify as a platform. And I switched to that last fall as well. And there's a lot of strategy behind why I switched to Shopify. They have a back-end inventory management system that syncs with the in-person POS system at the farmer's market, as well as with my online sales. It also syncs with my accounting platform, which I use as Xero. And so it really is streamlined my admin. I hate admin. I'd rather be stomping through that irrigation ditch. And I'm leaning on technology to help me out there and other people's know-how and how to set it up, because I didn't, to make my life easier. So there's some, if you're looking at an e-commerce platform, there's a lot of strategy that's going to go behind which platform you use. I started on a WordPress site on WooCommerce, and I switched to Shopify for that in-person POS syncing and that back-end inventory management. So that's just some information on that website. All right, so thinking about content, what we want to do, one of the biggest mistakes that people in agriculture do is, what do they tell farmers and ranchers? That you're feeding the world, right? They are saying that the farmers and ranchers are the hero, and that is actually incorrect. It's our customers that are the hero. They're the hero for wanting to buy from us. And so a real quick way to think about how you put your content together is the customers are the hero of your story. You got to place them as the people who are making what's happening work for you. And you're going to need to tell them how you're solving their problems. Like one of the reasons I started Melissa Hoff is Wyoming's very rural. It's actually the most sparsely populated state in the union and the most remote. A lot of people think it's Alaska, but it's Wyoming. And so all the baby chicks die in the mail when they're shipped in out of state because our mail's so slow. I'm actually waiting on a package of live bees. It got shipped on Monday and it's still not here. I think they might be dead. So hopefully my bees show up and then I'm gonna have to call about the DOA policy for that company. Anyways, it's a common problem in Wyoming. That's the whole reason I started the hatchery. I was like, this is a problem and I want to solve it. I want to sell chickens to my neighbors. And that's the reason I only sell live poultry in Wyoming, because I don't want to ship them out and have them die in the mail going to New Hampshire. But hatching eggs works just fine. Again, there's a strategy in how I set up my sales channels there. And another thing you want to do is think about how you're giving your customers emotional burdens. They could go, like I sell table eggs. I sell hatching eggs and table eggs. Table eggs are used in the kitchen. Right now, table eggs in the grocery store are pretty darn cheap. They didn't used to be when there was an egg shortage because of avian influenza, but they are right now. So my eggs right now are way more expensive. So if someone's just thinking money-wise, well, they're going to just trot down to Safeway and Albertsons and get their eggs. But I'm going to give them an emotional burden of why they're going to buy from me, right? Because I'm not going to just solve their problem for cheap eggs. That's not me. I can give them quality. I can give them fresh, but I'm also going to give them pastured, raised chickens. I'm going to give them heritage, all these other things, the other things they should care about, biodiversity, all these things that they didn't know that they should think about. So you really need to think of beyond just like they're hungry and they want to eat some food type problem. And then you got to make sure you call them to action of like, hey, come buy from me. And that's one of the hardest things for small businesses, because sometimes we can be really difficult to buy from, right? You have to come hunt us down at the farmer's market. You have to know where our little roadside stand is. You have to know where to pick up your baby chicks. You can't just go to the feed store and get Melissa Hoff chicks. You have to pre-order them, because I only hatch by pre-order. So there's all these little things, and you probably have your own. Just tell your customers. They love you already. They just really want to buy from you if you tell them how. And like at the farmer's market, it's as simple as putting up a little tent card that tells them that you accept Venmo and Apple Pay and Tap and, all this stuff. So when they walk up to your table, they're like, oh, good, I don't have cash, but I can use something else and buy from here. And it just eliminates a ton of confusion. So those are some ways of thinking about putting out content. Another thing you'll really want to think about. Oh, I got a couple other links before I hit that. Highly recommend this book and that podcast. So book is also available audiobook if that's more your deal. They'll make some more thoughts on how to do marketing and branding. In all this content, you need to position yourself as a guide, and that's with authority and empathy, because remember, your customer is your hero of the story, but you're the guide. If you think about Lord of the Rings, Everyone's seen Lord of the Rings or read it, right? Hopefully. If not, go do it. The hero is Frodo. He has a problem. It's that magic ring. And then he meets a guide, right? Gandalf, the wizard. And Gandalf tells him how to solve his problem. He gives him a plan. Take that ring to Mordor, get rid of it. He calls him to action. And then along the way, of course, he meets all these friends and they have fun. But eventually hit success and he gets rid of the ring. And I just told you like an epic tale in 2 seconds. And that's called a story arc. And we want to use that for all of our marketing. And so customer is your hero, but you are Gandalf. You're the guide. You're going to tell them how to do this. You're going to tell them how to buy from you. You're going to tell them why to buy from you, all that, what do they care about types things. And another way to do that is to think about how to do partnerships. So I do teach a lot of poultry care workshops because I sell live poultry. This winter I taught for free for a local nonprofit workshop on how to part out a chicken. It's all these things and you're like, oh, that sounds like a lot. And you didn't get paid for it. But what it did was that I was able to tell my customers about how I know how to part out a chicken and I know how to avoid pasty butt when you get baby chicks. And, and then that just helps me position myself as a guide, right? And it's sharing my knowledge. And hopefully later, some of those folks maybe buy some chicken meat from me, or maybe they buy some baby chicks from me. But if they don't, well, I still was able to put my brand as a guide in front of them. And if your bailiwick is cooking vegetables, or I don't know what's your talent, take your talent and go out there and do something with it and show that you're a guide for sure. Okay. I actually don't remember how much time I have left, Jess. I got 2 more talking points I'm supposed to have.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, 5 more minutes. Yeah.
5 more minutes. Okay. We got to hurry. So posting on a schedule for social content. Okay, I do have social media, but these days there's a big question out there. Do you want to be social or not be social? You could just choose to do an email newsletter. And I actually know a farm that's a vendor at the farmer's market. They have chosen as a family and as a farm to not be involved in any social media. And they tell their customers why. And they're standing on their morals and their ethics there. And they say, hey, come find us in person. Come visit the farm. Read our email newsletter. And we're not on social media. So sorry. But they use it as part of their branding. It's part of who they are. They have agreed to do it as a family. And they just tell their customers that, and their customers love them even more. So you can use that. You don't have to be on social. Now, I recommend if you're not on social media, you better have a website because everyone uses Google these days. So Lark's Meadow Farm does have a website, but they are not on social media. So another thing to think about, though, in that, if you do choose to be social, is how to use stories versus posts and reels. So posts and reels are content that are going to stay up on your social media, and stories will leave in 24 hours. So I talk a lot about chickens and garlic, right? That's what I got going on. I often do posts and reels more about, hey, baby chick orders closed on April 15th. And the story is about the fact that these chicks kept squeezing out of the brooder in the brooder room, and I was chasing them around on my hands and knees, right? Something fun, something catchy, but not something that my customers need to know if they visited my page 7 days from now. So that's kind of a way to think about content right there. Another thing that's super important, regardless of what media channel you're using, is to cross-post the content that you're creating. So everything that I'm creating for this long form newsletter, which takes me some time to put together, I am cross-posting onto my website blog as well as social media. The recipes I create, the chicken questions I answer. What else do I have on there? How-to videos. All of it is getting cross-posted because that's a great use of my time. If I'm coming up with the content for one media channel, I need to be using it in all 3 of mine. So I have a website blog. And the reason you really want to think about having a blog on your website is because that SEO, search engine optimization, will really help you out because it's all about Google these days. If we want to buy something, well, people go to Amazon first sometimes, but primarily they're going to hit Google and be like, I actually just did this. Poster of horse colors. I need to buy one for my interns because I board horses and they don't know horse colors. And so when I say that red roan needs to go over there, they don't know which ones the red roan is. So I'm like, just Googled that because I need to buy a poster of horse colors. So that SEO is primarily come from the blog posts on your website. So definitely make sure you're doing blog posts if you have a website. Another reason to cross post is just, a good use of your time when you're thinking about things. All right, marketing trends. They say do everything AI these days. I say don't. Do you. Do what makes you passionate, because if you don't like to do it, you're not going to take the time to do it. I found that in my accounting. So recently I finally ponied up the money and I hired a bookkeeper, because I mentioned I'd rather be stomping through the irrigation ditch. Yeah, I wasn't doing my books at all. I was like 6 months behind in reconciliation, had no idea what was happening financially. So I just am now ponying up the money and buying a bookkeeper. The same with marketing. If you don't like social media, if you don't like newsletters, if you don't like blog posts, you'll never do them. So just pick a form of marketing that you enjoy, and then you'll actually do it. And that really fits with your reason for being in business. So real quick to finish, I'm going to give you an example of how to think about marketing return on investment, or ROI. So I sell through Slowfoot and the Tetons online marketplace in Jackson. It's a third-party e-commerce platform. I don't ever know who those customers are, but they are a large bulk of my sales. They order through Teton Slow Food. I have the food products delivered through the food hub. I never know who they are. And I'm not allowed to know who they are, because it's kind of part of how that platform works. And I'd love to get their email for my newsletter, right? I want to talk to these folks directly. They're buying thousands of dollars of my product every year. So last winter, I put together a hard copy meal planner. I branded it. I called it Memorable Meal Times, hatch a plan for meal times, put my little chicks on it. Yay. And I printed it out, paid to have it color printed at the local print shop. And I stuck it in every order that was being delivered through that platform. And I put on it a free delivery code. So if they went to my website, my e-commerce platform, and made an order, I was giving them free doorstep delivery. Like, what a service. The other platform, they had to go to a central location at a certain time and pick it up in town. But I would deliver directly to their doorstep. And I was like, okay, I'm finally going to know who these people are. They'll pick it. Yay. No one did. No one ever used the coupon code. I printed I probably put $60 into it, and then a bunch of time to cut them up and stick them in the orders. And then a gal at one of the farmers markets in Jackson came up to me and she's like, I just love those meal planners, but you're not sending them anymore. And I said, oh no, I'm out now. I haven't printed another round. She's like, well, I'd love for you to keep doing it. They're just awesome. So I'm like, okay, well, I have one committed customer, but my whole strategy for that marketing was I wanted people's emails so I could talk to them directly. And it didn't work. It didn't work at all. But I think I got more committed customers from it. They just didn't want to order directly from me. Now, I have not done it again, right? It was some money. And I'm like, well, it didn't work for the reason I wanted it to work. I really need to think about how I spend my money. So that's the one way to think about what are you doing? Feel free to try new marketing things and then evaluate them. Just, set a goal. Why exactly are you doing this marketing thing? And then if your goal, evaluate the goals, maybe something else happened than you anticipated, but definitely check to see how much money you're burning on it. You all might have loads of cash just coming into your business and you can use them on anything you want. I don't. I have broken stuff all the time. They're way more important to the running of the farm. And I can't just be willy-nilly burning them on marketing stuff. So definitely look on your return on investment. All right, I think I'm audio over time. Thank you all. And on to Mark, whoever's next.
Yes, great. Thank you so much, Melissa. Does anyone have any quick questions for Melissa? We'll also have time for questions at the end. So for everyone. So we'll move on to Mark. Mark Guttridge is the co-founder of All In Farms in Boulder County, now in its 19th season as a community-focused market and CSA farm serving local families. His work centers on building lasting relationships through authentic community engagement, using the farm as a hub for connection, education, and direct consumer marketing. And a reason why we chose Mark to be another producer to share his story today is Mark has a great Instagram page, and he's he's always posting things and has great content. And we really wanted to highlight someone that was really using their social media platforms. So welcome, Mark. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And Melissa, thank you for the great presentation. I was taking notes too, even 19 years into it. You're never, just like farming, you're never going to learn everything. So that's one of my favorite things about being a farmer is the continuous learning process. And marketing is the same way, just trying to survive as a small family farm for 19 years has been a challenge. Like it's, and a little bit of strategic marketing and community partnerships has helped bridge us over those 19 years. I can tell you here in Boulder County, even though we have like access to land through Boulder County Open Space and a really like captive, awesome customer base, like right here in the county, that even though it's our 19th year, I can tell you 19 really good friends who were farmers in this county on open space or on private land. And in the last 19 years, that went out of business. And some of those were better farmers and better botanists and agronomists than myself. And it's definitely a challenging way to stay in business, but the impact and the lifestyle is, as you all know, is huge and why we all do it. But yeah, so I'm going to share a little bit about the farm, some of our marketing strategies. So this is our 19th year. It's my wife, Ken, and I moved back to this family farm. I grew up here just doing 4-H projects in the south side of Longmont and in between Longmont and Niwot in Boulder County. And I had a chance to move back to our 6-acre farm 21 years ago now, and started getting a garden and some animals so that our kids could grow up with some of the same stuff that I had. And then quickly realized that there was just a need for healthy food in the community. And my background's in environmental engineering, and I worked as an environmental engineer for the first 10 years of the farm, and actually full time and part time for the next 8 years of the farm. This is the first winter that I haven't done any kind of engineering consulting, but it took like 19 years literally to get there, to build the infrastructure around the farm and the systems to become a full time farmer. That's kind of what we're up against. So when we started, I think our first marketing strategy from the beginning was just like be good neighbors. Like always try to keep a clean. Like the best marketing you can do is like just have a good relationship first with your neighbors around you. If you're in a more kind of urban setting like we are here, like across the street from us is the city of Longmont, full of townhouses. There's just a bunch of new townhouses built on the south side of us. And so we're in this little agricultural, unincorporated Boulder County that's just like surrounded by the city of Longmont, ever sprawling. And so we have a very kind of semi-urban environment. So there's townhouses right across the street. We don't want our row covers blown across there and getting tangled up in the roofs, which does happen occasionally, not in the last 10 years, knock on wood. But just keeping a clean farm and being inviting, and that's really our very first marketing that first year when we decided to just start hobby gardening. And before we were starting to go to the farmers markets and have a little farm stand here, it was just some road signage, just like the very first. If you have any kind of street where if a lot of people on this, looking at some of the locations on this call today, a lot of people before Collins and around the Front Range where you are more and more in a more urban environment. So just getting a sign out on the road, letting people know you're there, what you're doing, is one of the most effective ways to start building awareness. And then local farmers markets are a great way. We cut our teeth in local farmers markets. We were at them all the way up until the pandemic in 2020. And as for new farmers, that's a great place to meet people interested in local food. And then we've really been focused on building a farm stand here at the farm. And especially since the pandemic, we kind of stopped going. 2019, we were doing like 5 different farmers markets every single week. And like my wife, Ken, and I, we have 4 daughters, and we have a crew of about 20 people now in the summer. That's mainly high school interns. That we have a paid high school internship program where our crew blossoms about 25 people in the summertime. And well, we're mainly a vegetable farm. We're feeding like a CSA of around this year it'll be right around 550 produce bags a week that are going off the farm. About 350 of those are families that come to the farm and pick up themselves. A lot of the other ones are food access programs we have to send CSA shares to local preschools or to food banks through some different grants that we've been able to work over time. And but 550 bags of like 5 to 7 produce items is a lot to pick and pack and distribute every single week. It's a lot of moving pieces. And as we've grown, we've become more of a food hub model since 2020. We haven't really been going back to the farmers market. We're building our farm stand here, and we're starting to bring in a lot more produce from other farms, a lot more meats from other farms, and kind of becoming like a more of a food hub model is, I think, one of those kind of economic models that are kind of working for farmers. Like, you can't rely on yourself to grow every single thing that your customers need. It's okay to have partner farms and find other people that do good things, and have a lot of partnerships. And our farm stand really thrives because of all those partnerships. Um, and so marketing wise, yeah, it started, I mean, there was no social media when we started 19 years ago. And now it's a huge part of us getting the word out, because it's just where people spend their attention. So that's where we need to be. But I think one of our earliest goals was just engage people with the farm. My wife, Ken, has done summer classes at the farm for youth since the beginning. A lot of those youth are from preschool age, elementary age to middle school age. We have summer classes during the summer that kids are coming and connecting to the land, learning about farmers' ecosystem. Besides the veggies, we have sheep and chickens here, and Left Hand Creek and beautiful creek ecosystem goes through the farm. And so it's great learning experience, learning place, and a great healing place. We've learned that really since the pandemic as well. Since 2020, we've really push to get more and more engagement with the community, especially youth on the farm, just looking at some of the mental health issues in our community, and just seeing how powerful the land in itself is to heal our community. That's been our big focus for the last 5 years. As the produce has grown, we've really focused on community engagement on the land, and all that community engagement ties back into those produce sales. At the end of the day, people are coming to the farm for field trips, or coming to the farm for a farm dinner, or these youth classes, getting picked up and dropped off, and they're shopping at the farm stand. So the number one way I think that we've always marketed is to make noise in the community. And Ken and I, for years, with, like, if there's art openings going on, city of Longmont, or just try to be local politics, anything, just try to get involved, show up, have your face present, meet people, tell them that where you're doing and why you're doing it, and they'll come out to the farm. And so that's really, I think, how Olin Farms got its reputation, its name, is just being involved in the community and really focusing always. Like, this isn't um, a seminar about farming necessarily, but some of my best farming wisdom that ever got passed down to me was by mentors that just said, like, just focus on quality all the time, and everything else will fall in place. Like, just make sure your product is where it needs to be. Um, always have seeds in the ground, which isn't just about veggie farming. It's about, like, you always have to have new business ideas, like, percolating in the background. If you're going to survive 1 year, 5 years, 10 years out, you always have to be germinating new things, whether it's in the field or just in your own business strategy. And so Olin Farms is actually, Olin is actually an Aztec word meaning constant motion or constant change. And we called that our farm that at the beginning because we knew, like, no 2 days on the farm were ever going to be the same. It's this evolving, living process. And we really, for myself, it's come to epitomize, like, it has to be the business model as well. If that business model isn't evolving, changing every single year, adapting to the realities, whether it's a pandemic or whether it's food shortage or whether it's, like, right now, it's just a huge labor issue in Boulder County, where it's really hard to find employees because the cost of living has skyrocketed the last 2 or 3 years in Boulder County. And so, like, we're really relying on those youth interns to come in the summertime and being able to work for $18, $19 an hour and still be able to live at home, because people making that can't live in apartments here anymore. It's just like it's becoming another hurdle we have to overcome. So getting back on the marketing side, those are some of the challenges of farming, and kind of the background. I think currently our best marketing, I think, is we do some paid marketing on like Facebook and Instagram as well. So when we first started the farm, we started gathering emails, and people signed up for our farm dinners or CSAs, obviously summer classes. And over the years, we've never really, like, pushed that, or try to build the email list out better. And probably we use Square through our point of sale at the farm stand to Square. All of our CSA sales are through Square. All of our youth summer class setups are Square. And so we have our website, which I put a link to in our in the comments, and that just got updated for the first time in 18 years, like this spring. Like it was an old like front page that I was updating, and like it didn't work on anybody's phone anymore. And so finally a friend of mine helped me like redo the web page and put the content on something that was a little more modern. And so that web page is there, but if you click through some of the different headers, like it has like all these different like kind of business channels that we're going through, and all of them have different kind of marketing strategies. And honestly, like I don't think we'd be here 19 years later if we were just selling vegetables. I can tell you for sure we wouldn't be here if we were just selling vegetables. It's because we're doing these classes and doing these farm dinners and regenerative agricultural grants and food access grants that we've been able to kind of build a piece together. And like talking to farmers, you already know this. Like there's no like silver bullet solutions. Like there's no like one thing you should be doing in marketing, or one thing you should be doing in farming, or one thing you should be doing in business planning. Like it takes a holistic approach for a farm to work. It takes a holistic approach for a farm to survive economically. It takes a holistic approach for a marketing plan to work really well. So while we still like really focus on that, making, as Ken always says, like we're good at making noise in the community. There's the marketing approach is also over time like involved like getting ads in local newspapers, maybe once, twice, three times. I never really saw like the cost, the return on investment for those like on print ads as maybe they used to. And so for the last 5 years, probably we've been 100% just and social media ads, and mainly Facebook, because we're still so Facebook we started probably 2012, maybe almost 14 years ago now. We're up to a little over 10,000 followers on Facebook. Our Instagram, we just started last year actually, because we realized we knew that like the younger generation just isn't on Facebook. And if we don't start building an Instagram, who's going to buy from us in 10, 20, 30 years? But my daughter Jimena, who's our harvest manager, actually runs the Instagram page. And most farms, most businesses like will can link their Instagram and their Facebook page. It's good to have both. You can set it up where if you're on Facebook, you can show right to Instagram, or most farms are on Instagram, it just like copies to Facebook at the same time. But because we're like our target audience like is definitely like young families. Like honestly, it's the moms of young families that are the ones making the food decisions for their families. And so we've really tried to build our marketing program around that. And while a lot of what we do is online, I'll talk a little bit more about that. Like even just having an event at the farm. So the very first Saturday of every month, we have a free event at the farm called Kids Day at the Farm. We've been doing this under different names for like 3 or 4 years now, but we realized that just call it Kids Day at the Farm, and that markets the best. Like we tried to have different themes, different that, but there's a lot of moms just looking for a place to get their kids out in nature, and especially if it's free, right? And I'd always complain about the supermarkets being the loss leader, selling corn for like 10 years for $1, and like this whole loss leader comparison. But like honestly, like that first Saturday of the month, like I'll be the loss leader. I'll invite as many people to the farm as possible. They can come for free. We'll give hay rides, see the chickens and the sheep. We have free kids activities at the farm stand. We have a musician there. We have a food truck there like every Saturday. And probably 70% of the families don't spend $1 that come, but every time it's just packed, like 100 cars in our parking lot, and always new families. And the reason it's always new families is because we're pretty much exclusively promoting that on Facebook as a Facebook event page. And so we launch a Facebook event page usually 10 or 14 days before. I'm about to launch the one for May, probably tomorrow, because we're getting close. It's like, oh man, May 2nd's getting close. I better launch this event page, and just talk about all the free stuff going on, all the fun going on at the farm that day. And we'll do like a promoted post that is about we'll put anywhere from like $50 to $100 to the post, depending on like how much extra veggies we think we might need to sell that day. And I've seen like compared to when we do that post and we don't do that promoted post, it's a big difference. And so for us, like we're really looking at just our target audience around us. So the beautiful thing about Facebook and Instagram is we can go like target it to people within 12 miles of the farm. It's kind of the scale I put it at for a lot of our farm stand promotions. And then honestly, for the Kids Day on the Farm, that's the one where I'll put like you can target it just to women, like females above 28 that probably maybe have kids and that identify as liking like PBS kids or identify as having kids 3 to 5 years old. There's a whole bunch of categories you can take like this sounds like a mom, this sounds like a mom. And so we have this one that I just went through all the categories one day. Like this is our festival promotion thing in Facebook, and we launch it every single month. I can tell you that this, we even with the warm weather this winter, we were doing them in January, February, March, April, and every month there's brand new families that show up, and it's amazing the power of Facebook to get to new people. And for $72, I guarantee you that returns at least $300 of extra sales at the farm stand. Or if that day, like where maybe we're making 1,500 at the farm stand, like 300 or 400 of that easily. It's just new people that saw it on Facebook, and that's totally worth that little bit of investment. And so we just recently started doing that on Instagram as well. I still do it on Facebook at the same time, so I'm not sure about the audience. But for me, honestly, I think the the clientele on Instagram is still a little bit younger, still a little bit more farmer focused. Or like I love following farmers on Instagram. Like that's mainly my Instagram feeds, all the local farmers that I can learn from and see things from. So I think there's a lot of great conversation happening there. It's a great learning space. I'm not convinced yet that it's a great marketing space yet, like for paid promotions, but I think it will eventually grow into that for sure. But right now, Facebook is a great one. And another thing that we do in Facebook usually, like for the farm stand too, like last week we started getting arugula or asparagus in from Brighton, and Pueblo had their first asparagus. So we got a big shipment of beautiful asparagus in, and just being able to so like we're going right now, we're just open on Saturdays. So usually like tonight or tomorrow morning, I'll do a sponsored ad about what's going on at the farm stand this weekend. And that's been really effective, just being open Saturday. Next week, we're going to be starting open all the time. So we're going to start adding a little more promotions. But it's, and one of the things I love about Facebook, like they always say, like ads that run for 7 or 10 days are the most effective. Like almost every ad I run, if it's for the farm stand, is just one day. Like we'll put $27 or $37 just for one day. Like this is what's important right now. This is what's fresh. This is what's new. And partly because I don't want to just have the same ad showing up to people over and over. Like I get annoyed when I see that on my social feeds. And so being able to kind of just highlight what's going on and target it to get traffic to the farms. And we've seen that really be effective. So Facebook is I think 90% of all of our marketing energy went to Facebook last year. But equally amount of our time, Ken and I were busy in the community, busy with local nonprofits. And I think that's one of the other keys that I think we've kind of excelled at too is obviously right now there's probably like 10, if we're lucky, 15% of the people in our community are actively looking for like local healthy food, right? And there's probably 60% that it's never going to be on their radar. So how do we touch that like 10 to that 40%, the ones that aren't coming to the farm yet, aren't connected to local food, but they are open-minded? And like I've always thought that really came from being like involved in other local nonprofits or charity work. So we're involved, like Longmont Museum has their volunteer lunch out here at the farm every year. Anytime nonprofits look to rent the farm, we always try to make it work within their budget. Like we have a space rental that we can have at the farm, but like our favorite events to host at the farm are definitely like nonprofit fundraisers, because you have all these people, they're coming out, they're raising money for their own cause, but they're bringing a lot of open-minded people to your property to be able to engage with your farm, hear your story. And I think that's really helped our farm kind of grow. It's just, like I said, make noise in the community and share that space in the community. So, yeah, then the email list has grown to probably about 10 or 11,000, I think, people in our email list now. I usually do like a once a month kind of general newsletter, or during our CSA season, the CSA people get like an email every pickup day and tell them what's in their share and things like that. But yeah, the once a month, and we've been using eye contact. We do pay maybe $150 or $200 a year for the like 10, 11,000 contacts, which is to me is a drop in the bucket for the effect it has for when you send that email out to see how many new CSA shares or new summer camp signups that go out. But yeah, just that once a month kind of communication with my background before I became a farmer, before I became an engineer, I really wanted to be like a sports writer. So I do like writing and being able to create a story and narrative as well. So I like to add people, I think, really like our newsletters just because they talk a lot about what's going on at the farm, also local politics, or if there's herbicide issues in Boulder County spraying in the foothills, we'll touch on that and just try to educate people on ecosystem health and healthy eating and healthy living. So that's I think that's pretty much our marketing strategy. And then yeah, so I think road signs are one of the most effective. If you're having like an on-site farm stand, just having informative road signs, inviting road signs, and a clean-looking farm, people want to turn into, like, if they see like the sunflower rows and all these lettuce rows lined up, like just trying to create that like inviting space. I think that's what I've been really enjoying creating on the farm over the last few years. I
Great,
think maybe
Mark.
we'll let's hear some questions.
That was great. I feel like I liked that you were just talking about like marketing isn't just like sharing, but it's also markets, and you have multiple markets and different avenues for your business. And then how you market it and how you just like make noise in the community, which is like, big. I think as like for producers, it's not always like comfortable to like toot your own horn and talk about how great you are. But I think that that's like really what's needed to get people to form like a like what Melissa was saying, this emotional attachment where they want to be a part of this community and this local foods movement. So yeah, it's really great. Does anyone have any questions for Mark? Oh, great. Yeah. So Abby says, Olin Farm supports the food bank I work for, and you give up tons of produce bags, and people love it. So that's huge. Well, we'll move on to Lexi. Lexi, you still have 20 minutes. The webinar goes until 7:30, so we'll just have like about, um, we'll have like 10 or so minutes for questions at the end, maybe a little less. But you can keep just putting your questions in the chat if you think about them, and we'll like save them till the end. So um, Lexi is the Larimer County Extension Marketing and Communication Specialist. So if you've seen my post before or my flyers or just any kind of content I'm sharing or we're sharing, or if you're involved with our newsletter, all of that is Lexi. So none of that is my marketing. And I think that that's why we have such a great extension team and why we have so many people come to our events, is because Lexi's behind it all, doing all of the marketing. She's a huge help. And so I really wanted her to speak about her strategies, and really just kind of like someone with more of like that marketing background sharing what kind of those marketing strategies are for all of us to learn more about. So thanks, Lexi, for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Mark and Melissa, you guys gave some amazing tips. Your farms sound beautiful. I'm a little envious you get to spend your days out in your beautiful land. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about, I think, is kind of building off of what each of you said. I do have a slide deck, though, so I'm going to go ahead and share that. All right. So yeah, as Jess said, I'm the marketing and communication specialist for Extension in Larimer County. My background is psychology, graphic design, and some user experience. So I really like thinking about, which each of you also mentioned, where are your customers? Where are they hanging out? What do they want? How can you talk to them? So that's a little bit about my background. And because of my graphic design background, I'm a huge champion for branding. You can think of it as like branding drives demand. It's the first touch point that people get of you. It's the first impression of what people are going to kind of get a vibe for your operation, and hopefully also your story. There's also psychology stuff. There's something called the aesthetic usability effect that is this video I'm going to share talks a little bit about it. But basically, people, if they think something looks nice, they will believe that it works well or is quality before they can even, test or find out about that. So I'm just going to play this video real quick. He does a really good job.
Two identical products sitting side by side that do the same thing. People will trust the one that looks better. It's not my opinion. It's psychology. It's called the aesthetic usability effect. And when something looks clean, intentional, well designed, our brains will assume that it works better, even before we get to try using it. This is why design is so important. It's not decoration, it's a trust signal for your brand. And here's how you can do it with your own brand. Take any clutter that you have and get rid of it, because confusion will kill your customer's confidence. Use spacing, hierarchy, consistency to make the experience very easy on their brain. And make sure that you're designing your brand the way you want it to be perceived, whether that's premium, simple, reliable. Okay, we don't get to test quality first. We feel it first. And before your brand gets to prove that it works, your design has to make people believe that it does.
Okay, so I think he hits on a lot of great things there. Mostly the aesthetic usability effect, but also just like how are you presenting your operation? Are you like a higher end operation? Are you sustainability focused? Are you family focused? Those things look and feel different. So if you're going to, have an identity, branding is really just like an identity. And so just kind of thinking about what you want that to be and then being consistent about that is, I think, the most important thing. So I'm going to keep mentioning these, but I think if you can take one thing away from my presentation, branding and marketing wise, you should be clear, be consistent, and be recognizable. And that is going to resonate with customers just throughout all of your touch points, in person, on digital, everything. So when people think of branding, oftentimes they just think of like logo, and that's a huge important part of branding, but it's also things like, do you have a color scheme that you're using often? Do you have like a font that people recognize? Also like your tone and messaging, not only the things that you key in on talking to your audience, but how do you talk to them? Are you building sort of like Melissa with her workshops? Are you building trust and authority? Or are you do you want to be like, friendly and approachable? And do you want to be like the, person around the block, the neighbor? So thinking about kind of how you want to have a relationship with your customers, lean into it with your tone and messaging. And then I also just wanted to point out that there are so many different ways that you can be recognizable without even putting your logo on things. Like NPR has this like red, black, and blue like line scheme that is part of their logo, but they kind of like place it throughout. So if you're scrolling and you see this, red, black, and blue line, then that's like automatically, that's an NPR thing. If you're into NPR, you might stop your scroll. And similarly, the trust for public land, it can be something as simple as like they're using this green background on some of their captions, and they have this like color line that is their that is part of their branding, that it's simple, it's quick, but it really like quickly communicates who they are in your feed. And another thing that goes beyond visual branding is why you. If you're at a farmer's market with all these amazing vendors, like why are people stopping at your booth? What's your unique selling point? It can be quality, like Melissa mentioned, like heritage goods. It can be, a ton of different things. I don't know what it is for you guys. But if you can identify what that unique selling point is, what keeps people coming back, then you can kind of think about leaning into that when you're communicating with your audiences. And again, consistency it's everything. So if you're on social media, if you have a website, if you're at markets, you want your look and feel to be the same so that people recognize you. If that's like a color, whatever. And then I also wanted to mention Google Business Profile. Melissa talked about search engine optimization and how if you are Googling something, your website and blog can help you come up in like the top searches. So can your Google business profile, and it's completely free. So I think Jess is going to send out this slide deck, and I have linked in how you can claim your Google business profile and like update your hours and check out your ratings if there's something that you want to address. Like all of that stuff is going to be like people are going to look at it. They're going to be Googling you. If you come up in like the first couple, this is called like the 3-pack. So if you Google Fort Collins CSA, these guys have claimed their Google business profiles. That helped them, among many other things, come up into like those first 3. So just like the visibility and being among the people that when you think of like Fort Collins CSA, that's who they'll think of. And then in terms of like your identity across social media, website, all of that stuff, in your social media bio, you want to immediately tell your audience 4 things. What do you sell? Where do they find you? How do they buy? And where do they go next to learn more? So I think Melissa said they love you, they want to buy from you, just tell them how. And I love that because if they are your audience, then that's true. They're here for you. Just, guide them. And then I don't want to get like too markety or anything like that, but when you're thinking about how you're talking to your audience, it's really helpful for me anyway to think about like the marketing funnel, which is people who are just learning about you and then they kind of like move through your funnel until they become like loyal customers. So at the top of the funnel, that's stuff like Instagram. It's people first discovering you. And you can, it's just light content kind of. It's like whatever you're doing, good marketing isn't about like doing a lot of extra stuff. It's just showcasing what you are doing to your audience. So, if you're feeding the flock, that's a post. Just be like, feeding the flock this morning. People love to see stuff. It might feel like boring to you, but it's stuff that people sometimes don't get to see that behind the scenes. And then middle of funnel is, as they know about you, they're following you maybe they've seen you at the farmer's market. You want to turn that kind of relationship into sales. So you want to go from them knowing about you to them like being a customer. So that's like call to action. So it's like, visit us tomorrow. We'll have carrots and beets. And middle of funnel is also really great for email marketing, which I love that you guys are both doing email marketing in a little different ways. And then you get to the nurturing those relationships and like building retention in your customers. So it's making them kind of like it's building your community, like making them feel involved, they're bought in. Thanks for selling us out today. So those are just kind of 3 examples of how you can just frame your messaging to speak to those different people. And if you can do, like, it doesn't have to be all at once. You can do a post about feeding the flock. And then, if you hit on all of these, then you're speaking to all of your audience. And also great that this has been touched on. Think about how and why your customer buys, not just what you sell. So speaking to their needs, if they are, do they care about sustainability? Do they care about health or supporting local? Just find out how you align with those things, and you can kind of talk about that in your marketing. It doesn't have to be like inauthentic. It's just, if you find out that they are into sustainability and you have sustainability practices, then talk about that more. And then some other ways to just get a feel for who your audience is. Social media insights and metrics are really great. Meta, excuse me, Meta business, I think, is like so intimidating. I'm in it all the time and I hate it. So there are many different ways you can look at your metrics. You can do it natively in Instagram. And I wanted to point out, if you haven't already, it's really helpful to have a creator or a business account on Instagram because it gives you more reach. It gives you access to insights, like how many people have visited your profile, what are your top performing posts, stuff like that. And you can also add contact buttons, which is great for that call to action. So just a recommendation there. And then just think about, like, what do your customers ask the most about? What are some things that are, FAQs that you can kind of identify some of their needs that way, their pain points. It sounds like you guys know a good deal about, what they're buying, their buying behavior, and just some good old market research can also be helpful. I'm sure you guys have done that a fair amount, but you can find out a lot of things on Google. And then Jess asked me to kind of talk about what platforms should you use. And the answer is complicated. So I just kind of first wanted to do a little poll and see if you guys might just throw in the chat what platform you guys use most, like as individuals, not as business. Oops. Yeah, Instagram. This is the first throw out. Okay, well, yep, Instagram, Facebook, the main ones. Instagram. So I think that kind of fits what we see generally is Instagram is often where a lot of people who, especially are interested in local things are. Facebook is the biggest platform. That's where the most people are, but you just have to figure out where your audience is. So, again, Google is going to be your best friend. It changes all the time. Like there's always new platforms out. They're always changing algorithms. It's really hard to keep up. And so I think a good strategy is just figure out what performs. Where's your audience engaging with you? Focus on one or two, because if you're consistent on one or two platforms, it's going to be much better than trying to, trying to like throw in a TikTok video on top of, whatever else you're doing. If you just post a picture on Instagram or Facebook, once a week, talking about what you're bringing to market, that's going to be a lot more community building, and it will be better for the algorithms to show your content to your audience. And then also, again, like email newsletters are, I think, a great way to kind of throw in some of that more middle and bottom funnel. People are finding you on social media, but if they care enough to subscribe to your newsletters, those are customers. And with your newsletter, there's no algorithm. You don't have to fight anyone else for the attention. So it's really a great way to add like an add-on, or as you've heard Mark and Melissa use it in some different ways and some different platforms. Definitely worth exploring. And then, yeah, just you have to figure out what's best for you and your audience and your content. So no one can really tell you what platform to be on or what to post. You just have to kind of test it and see who's engaging with you. So, similarly, once you like figure out where your audience is and where you want to be, what are you posting? I'm a huge proponent of marketing doesn't have to be like a bunch Okay, marketing is extra work, I'll admit it. But if you make your content work for you, then it can be less overwhelming. So if got a mention in the media, like the Coloradoan or something like that about your goods, share it. Just amplify, like let your audience know that you're featured. If there's a good review that you see, stick it over a pretty picture, post it. That's an easy way to post. It's also social proof, which is just like it sounds. If people think that other people like your product, they are more likely to be more interested in your product. So, um, if a customer shares a photo on Instagram and you run across it, you can repost that, say, oh, thank you so much to this person who stopped by and bought a bunch of peaches. That's called UGC, user generated content. It's a great way to post without having like a lot of uh, effort on your end. So just showcase what you're already doing. If you're in the field, take a picture. People want to see that. They want to see the behind the scenes. Um, they want to see, how much effort is going into your products because that will just help them understand your value better. So it might seem boring to you, but it's a lot of people don't get to see those things every day. So um, and then engaging in the spaces where your audience is, that means if you're on Instagram or if you're on Facebook, are you liking other people's posts? Are you like joining the conversations? That helps in many different ways because you're building your community. You're also getting your name in front of some overlapping audiences. And it's that kind of like that casual community engagement is what helps build relationships. Also, batching and rescheduling. If you are out doing something interesting, take a bunch of photos of it. You can use them, use it like once a month. And then you can like schedule posts too, so that instead of having to, be in your marketing hat for however many minutes a day, just do it in a chunk. You can schedule with Facebook and Instagram, and I'll be talking about like Buffer as a scheduling option too. So there's lots of platforms out there that can help you schedule, and then reuse your content. Melissa mentioned that she puts a lot of effort into her content, and so she uses it across her channels, and that's huge. It might feel sometimes it certainly does to me that like you're being repetitive because you're living in that content, but in the reality, you're just giving more opportunity for people to see and discover you. Most people are not seeing what you're posting. So if you post it multiple times or across different channels, it just, boosts your chances of being seen.
Lexi, just to let you know we're coming up at 7:25 right now, so maybe just
Okay.
quickly wrap up and we can leave a little room for questions.
Yeah, cool. I'm just going to move over to the tools then. Some free tools and resources. Adobe Express, everyone knows Canva. Adobe Express is super similar, also free if you're not that into Canva. Use graphics and templates, but make them your own. Like, don't pull off a random template and just use that. Use your colors, use your branding. CapCut is great for like video edits. So if you're building a reel, CapCut and Instagram's edits feature are great. And I love Buffer for scheduling posts. It gives you statistics and metrics. You can schedule and it's free. And then if you're if you're looking for more powerful photo and video content, DaVinci Resolve is a free option.
Awesome. That's great, Lexi. And I'll definitely share out those slides. And thank you so much for presenting. We usually don't get Lexi behind camera, or she's usually behind the camera. She's not in front of the
That's where
camera.
I belong.
So that was great. Okay, do we have any questions? Does anyone have questions for any of our speakers? Or do you want to run by your strategy, your marketing strategy, and get some thoughts. I know people will probably want to jump off and eat some food, but if people want some free marketing advice from the experts, now is the time.
My email is also in the slide deck, and I'm happy to answer any questions y'all have.
And you can also engage with Lexi if you message us on Instagram or Facebook or with our extension. So I did have a question from someone emailed me. They weren't able to make it, but they wanted to know, from the speakers, I'd love to hear about your marketing and branding companies that are privacy focused. There's so many marketing companies that either sell our data or have ownership to use our data if we use their sites to create content. So I've been trying to be mindful of what I upload and which companies I work with that are more privacy focused. So I'm looking for alternatives to Canva and MailChimp. But yeah, did any of you guys run into that or have any thoughts on that or whatnot?
I use InDesign, which I know
Okay.
is more expensive. I've accessed it through it. I was recently in grad school. I have a student account. So I know not everybody has that. But thinking about privacy, one thing I had was I had fraudulent claims because I sell nationally, and my brand was only trademarked in the state of Wyoming. And I had someone selling chicks underneath my logo and my business name. And then, of course, the customer contacted me. So that is a huge concern. And that was a huge business expense I did not anticipate this winter, as now I'm getting federally trademarked with the USPTO and have an IP lawyer. That's $6,000. I was like, well, that just came out of the other job that I do, not the farm budget. So it really is, when do you start trademarking? What scale? When do you start doing word marks and design codes and all the things I'm now learning about with an intellectual property lawyer? It is something to think about. I never thought I was big enough to have somebody want to sell baby chicks underneath my logo, but yeah, they did already.
Wow.
And the internet is a big place. They just pulled it right off my website and impersonated my business. So that is something to think about depending on where you're selling. I had it state trademarked. It was way cheaper in Wyoming. I'm not sure how cheap it is in Colorado, but I had never thought I'd be federally trademarking things right now. So as you're putting together your logo and colors for branding, I highly recommend you go to your Secretary of State and do a business entity search to see if anybody else is using your name. You don't want to be the one getting fraudulent claims against you. You can also do it for the USPTO and look federally. One thing that I ran into, so Melissa Hoff, my family background is German. Hoff is German for farm, so it means Melissa's farm. I chose that at the beginning because no one can spell my last name when I say Hemken. Like, who's going to Google Hemken? They're going to put a P and an I in it. They're never going to find me, but everyone knows how to spell Melissa. So I went Melissa Hoff in Germany. That's how they do their farm names over there. When I got to federal registration level, though, I learned that the U.S. Requires you to trademark in any language. So I had to do German as well as English. Never thought that was coming down the pike 6 years ago when I just got this crazy idea to hatch chicks and sell them to my neighbors. So it's a big deal. It can be a big deal depending on where your business is going. Where are you marketing? I never thought I had a big enough platform to have fraudulent business claims, but turns out I do. So definitely something to think about. I'm never worried about design companies using my mark. I do have a logo created by a local graphic designer. She has created both. I have a sub brand too, which we haven't really talked about, but I had her create both logos. And so they are unique to my business, not something I just pulled off of clip art, right? Which is another thing to think about. So there's a lot there. And if anybody has more questions, and if they want to keep that in mind, feel free to email me. I'd be happy to tell you everything I've learned and how expensive it is.
Yes. Well, great. I will put your guys' emails in the recap email. That's all right. And just if anyone has questions, is there any other questions? If not, I'll let you guys go. I'm so thankful for all of our speakers. We had no idea. We threw this together so quickly. We didn't have much time to put into it, but you guys are all amazing and shared all of your amazing experiences. And I was taking a bunch of notes. And so I think that everyone learned a lot. So thank you all so much. And the recording will be sent out in a week from now. Lexi is actually the one that makes our recordings into YouTube videos. So now you know what she does as well. And so that'll be like from a week from now, but tomorrow I'll send out an email with more of the slides and the presentations and all those things. So thank you so much, guys, and have a great rest of your night.
Thank
Thank you
you.
guys for
Good
putting
evening,
that
everybody.
together.
Thanks. Okay, I'm heading out. Bye.
Yeah, have a good night.
You too.